here.
We are.
Yes. Last time you had to formally go to it. So the group requested that we come back, and this is the design document. It's flashing 2026 for unknown reasons. You asked that we come back, we don't have a formal presentation, we have the document. We're happy to go through it chapter by chapter if there's specific things that you want to look at. We incorporated Planning Commission's feedback from the last couple of meetings at the end of last year. We also did another couple of weeks of public engagement. We only got about 4 responses on the survey, and we didn't get any other feedback via other mechanisms as well. So we tried to incorporate a lot of that to the extent that we could. There were some things that we couldn't. People asking us to reinstate the 1% growth ordinance. People asking us to annex Glow Park, things like that. So we incorporated as much as we can. Obviously, the design document, there's a couple of things that we still need to add in, and the designer right now is doing a very hard proof read of the whole document, which we did a little bit as well. So the intent is to come back for formal consideration and do our public hearing for adoption on the 18th of March, 18th of February. And then we would take it to council on the 17th. But I think a lot of that just depends on how the conversation goes tonight, and if there's substantial changes, how quickly our designer can turn things around. So,
17th of March to go to council.
yes.
I
We pick the best days to go to council. So.
I would also highlight, so staff recommended another goal to really emphasize the characteristics detailed in our form zone code that was adopted, and continued support for that. But ultimately, Planning Commission, if you feel comfortable with where the draft is at, and that the changes that you request or any discussion from tonight, that you feel comfortable be able to consider those as kind of a recommendation as we finalize it for your public hearing. If you're not comfortable, we'll continue to work on that and see about moving that meeting. But ultimately tonight, I think it's are you comfortable with a go, no go decision to bring this for your consideration in a formal adoption hearing? But that's ultimately your part. So staff, we have our recommendations, but it's your document. So that's tonight's conversation, and any additional things that you want to see, major things, but little things we are comfortable that we can get you a final document for that adoption hearing on that schedule that Matt mentioned.
Yeah, and it's worth noting that extra goal that came out of Carl's team kind of going through a couple of test cases for utilizing this document for a development review case, seeing how it went, and that was something that was requested of us by the city council. So that kind of resulted in some tweaks to language and then the additional goal. So we've used it a little bit and are happy with where it's going at the staff level. So yeah, I guess I would look to the group if you want to tackle by chapter, if you want to tackle large topics. Easy either way.
Is there a preference on the commission about whether we go chapter by chapter or whether we do it more topically?
I had just a process question, which was, like, when I read through half of the document, full disclosure, I've not read the entire thing yet, but when I read through the first 50 pages, I found a number of just mechanical typographical things that I would want to suggest, but those are pretty nitpicky, and so would it be better just to send a doc to you with, okay.
And unfortunately, we're working out of a PDF right now. Is the easiest way for us to communicate with the designer.
Okay.
But if there's broad trends that you see, Oxford commas would be one, just
Right.
make sure that there's Oxford commas, then we'll go back and take care of don't have to call out every instance. So if you see trends of just
Right.
This, we can incorporate that into our final review.
Yeah, okay.
I've been thoroughly raked by my colleagues for Oxford comma usage, non-usage.
Maybe another process question, has it been determined whether we're approving this or adopting this?
You are adopting and council is approving per state statute.
Excellent.
We've sent it out to all of our adjacent jurisdictions within 3 miles as required as well, to get their feedback.
Any feedback?
I just sent it this morning.
Okay, so we'll
We
hear.
gave them 2 weeks and told them the public hearing's coming up.
Okay.
As well. Which was also a fun time to realize that Lakewood is actually adopting their comprehensive plan on almost the same schedule. And we have not seen any of that either, so that'll be a good opportunity to reach out to them. So,
And I will say, usually you send that and get comments back, especially when there's a future land use map, and looking at that with, our plans on our borders versus our neighbors, and that Golden does not have, we are not adopting a future land use map as part of this plan. And so, we don't anticipate, comments to, come back in any level of concern. Knocking on wood, of course, but that's usually when you see potential comments back coming from other jurisdictions, is when there's some discrepancy in future land use map plans on those borders. But Golden, we don't have that issue. So
yeah, but the intent would be we'd have any comments that we do get on the 18th. Jeffco has reached out to us specifically about South Golden Road, because they're in the process of figuring out how much housing they can put on that corridor. And so Carl and I are going to be meeting with them to kind of talk. I think their strategy is much more targeted than our strategy for South Golden Road. And we're curious to also hear about their transportation assumptions and plans, because that has a huge impact for us. So.
Good. I'm glad you guys are involved.
Yes,
That's excellent.
That's great.
and you might see that in more detail at a neighborhood level plan, rather than at the comprehensive plan, which
Yeah, it basically overlap with kind of the South Golden Road neighborhood.
To answer your question, I think chapter by chapter would be probably my preference, just kind of going, I've got tabs on mine so I can kind of follow along.
Okay.
We'll go through, so.
Does that
Sounds great.
work for other folks? Good.
Does everybody like our happy couple cover photo?
Do you know who that is?
No. I know some of them, and I stripped some of the council members out in previous photos.
I was told that this is a former planning commission member.
Is it?
Oh, really?
It's fine.
Before
I'll
my
ask
time.
Rick. Rick's never said anything, so.
Okay.
yeah.
I don't know, this is an actual photo in Golden?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is down in,
That's that playground
Eagle
right
Ridge,
next to
kind of
that,
area.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, no, we've avoided that classic planning issue of like, here's your photo from France, kind of thing, so.
All right, I approve.
I even hiked up a hogback to get a photo, for economic development, so. We'll have, the acknowledgements page. We had a note from the mayor, but we pulled it out. So, the chapter page, these pictures obviously all sync up with the cover photos, that we'll have for each chapter as well. So we have our introductory chapter, local photo, I think it's the south table, actually north table. So yeah, chapter 1. And again, I think to Carl's point, so yeah, like any hard typo stuff, we're on that. So if there's content changes, I think for chapter 1.
Yeah, page 7.
Cool, sorry, I'm playing double duty here.
Sorry.
And are these, should we do PDF page numbers or
Oh.
document page numbers?
Well,
They generally
Because
align.
it's-
since I don't have a PDF,
Okay, cool.
I will be telling you what I'm seeing.
Yeah, no, they generally align to be like some sort of miracle that we did not actually plan.
it was
So,
always planned.
as you can see, we need a better quality photo per the designer. It was surprisingly difficult to find a photo of this plan's cover. So, anyway.
Just the last paragraph, it says, when utilizing the plan, these values are guides to ensure that no recommendation is made that would significantly clash with the overall intent of the stated Golden Vision 2030 values. I was like, we want recommendations that wouldn't clash. I feel like we would want recommendations that are in harmony with the overall intent of the Golden Vision 2030 and continue to promote those values rather than like just assuming, like hoping that they don't clash. I feel like just,
Yeah, maybe that are in alignment with
yeah, something like that.
or support.
Yeah.
Sure. I will admit I stole this verbatim from actually Golden Vision 2030, so I will.
Okay.
I
Well, we can
will-
always do better.
I know, exactly. It's a, old document, so we'll update that. So in alignment or in harmony,
Yeah.
something along those lines.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll promote, yeah.
Same paragraph, first sentence has GV space 2030, second sentence has GV no space 2030.
Okay.
And that inconsistency is kind of runs throughout as well.
Sure.
Good catch.
I know it's small, but
It should probably be no space. You're finding my transportation planner where it's sometimes spaces, highways.
Yeah, the definition at the top of that has it no spaces.
Yeah. That's an easy fix.
page, darn
You can go off the, yeah, go
Page-
ahead.
page 5. of the doc.
Okay.
Let's see. Second to last sentence, brewery located outside downtown Golden. Do we want to say outside downtown Golden or adjacent to, or when we say outside, it sort of makes it seem like it's not part of the community in
And
my read.
Kind of is downtown Golden, isn't it?
I mean,
But
technically,
specifically
it's,
not within the city.
right,
Yeah.
right.
I think that's probably what you're
It's like a
intending.
city limit
That's what I
versus
thought
like
too,
a
yeah.
place,
Yeah.
census
Yeah.
designated place kind of thing. Yeah, we can change it. I think, and it's interesting because like the economic development study that we did, or the economic analysis, they went through the same thing, and they ultimately decided to include cores, and they, no, it's not us, but let's be real.
It's so impactful.
Yeah. so-
Yeah.
It really is downtown.
But I think it also, with level setting of what can we vision for that brewery, and the
Yeah.
answer is, so.
Yeah,
we
there's
can
no
definitely
language,
clarify that,
but
yeah.
there's definitely, they're obviously here. They are golden. Okay.
Other comments on chapter 1?
I want to know who this guy and his kid is, so, it makes it happen, this book. All right.
Guiding principles on page 8, that paragraph, you've got 2 twos, ironically.
I see it, yeah, okay.
And that sentence doesn't actually grammatically make sense. Our 2 structural principles are,
Again, I will fix the sins of past planning documents here. Okay.
Page 11 of the doc, and this is kind of systemic. The images that are included, none of them are captioned.
Yeah.
And this one is maybe, one, that's when I started thinking about it. It's the most,
Yeah.
it's not clear what it's saying, right? I mean, I read the narrative. The narrative is accurate. It talks about the relocation of certain business, but the pictures in general, outside of the intro section and just what's the character of Golden, I think, this one stuck out to me. Why are we showing there? Why isn't there a caption that describes what it is? It feels a little, I guess that's a bit of a reflection on the document as a whole of let's use images and do the work to tell, and attribute them and put captions, or not use them as filler, right? That's one easy fix. I don't know what everybody else feels.
I was wondering the same thing about that same image, wondering, because Myers Alley is what's written about,
Mhm.
but Meyer is what's featured. And maybe we want to privilege what's present versus what's past.
Yeah, we could look at putting captions on the photos, I think that's fair. And obviously, we included this one because it's showing the highlight. This is an example of there used to be downtown daily service businesses,
Mhm.
and now there are not.
And I think we all know that,
Yeah.
but a reader.
And we
will
can
not.
make that clear.
It can help tell the story.
Yeah.
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 What is considered Central Golden?
The middle, roughly. There's a central neighborhoods plan that's like downtown-ish and everything roughly down to the high school. It's a very nebulous concept for sure. But the reason I use the central golden neighbor, we try to use that whenever we're talking about that downtown and like adjacent neighborhoods. And I think the folks that live in the neighborhoods closer to the high school consider themselves still part of that like central golden kind of component. And so I think generally thinking of the city of north of 58, that central part to kind of fossil trace, and then everything sprawling out to the south.
Yeah, I think the technical boundary, if I remember, is Rimrock Road along South Golden Road is kind of that southern edge of the
Yeah.
central neighborhoods.
When I first started, there is a neighborhood map for the city, and it's like 75 neighborhoods, which I think practically is, nobody views the city as like 75 distinct neighborhoods. And a lot of that's more like there's a PUD that is a neighborhood.
Or a subdivision.
Yeah, or whatever it may be. Cool. Sorry. Anything else on chapter 1?
Pages 14 and 15.
Mm-hmm.
Wondering if there could be some sort of description about, I mean, I know where those statements came from that are capturing each of the photos, but they seem a little, like they're hanging out there without like an anchor. There's not a description of, I mean, like it's alluded to that it's public engagement, right? But then when it comes to what's written, I wonder if we would want to say something about, featured below are.
Sure. We could add something to the bottom of page 13, I think, to be,
Yeah.
we point blank ask people
Yeah.
what they love about
Right.
this city, and
Yeah.
like, this is
Yeah.
what we heard from the community.
Yeah.
This was, and again, we shamelessly kind of borrowed this from Crested Butte, and they had some language too, of like, there's the plan and the way we view ourselves, but this is like the way people view
Yeah.
our community. So I think that's what we tried to capture here. We finally got the photos, I think, to hopefully more closely match here.
Yeah.
Some of these are a little challenging, we found, just to have a photo that really hits on it. So, short of making Elijah go out and take a photo from behind.
So maybe on 13, since the paragraph that's there refers to indigenous people, and historically, then another paragraph that would sort of link it.
I would probably put it below that.
Introduce the photo.
Yeah, I'll do that. The indigenous paragraph was specifically requested by Reddy, the task group force, to add that. So I think we can tweak this page to make all that flow appropriately.
Maybe they'd need quotes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
More quotes
quotations.
from people, yeah.
Mhm. Just to make it clear.
Yeah, we could add quotes. So,
I don't know if this is an actual word or not, but on page 13, where the heading is, "This area has been home to indigenous people since time immemorial." Is that an actual word?
I think so.
Huh.
Yeah, I think it's just kind of going back. I think it's meant to indicate kind of pre-current history, something like that.
Another recommendation throughout would be to decide if you want the paragraphs to be left justified or.
Yeah, we
have them-
flagged that with the designer.
Yeah, because some are indented and some are, and then whether or not there's a space between paragraphs.
Yeah, and that'll be the stuff that'll get flagged on the proofread for sure.
Yeah.
On page 9, I really appreciated this presentation that really gives a good capsule summary about plans and so
Mhm.
on. I think is a good way of starting making the connection between comprehensive plan and everything else. So that was a nice addition and presentation of that.
I was surprised how many plans we've done, quite frankly.
Yeah, I really like how chapter 1 is and how it kind of sets the framework for everything else. So, yeah, we have some nitpicks, I think, but you guys did a really good job putting this
Yeah, I'm
together.
not hearing anything too concerning, and I just actually caught myself. Thought I caught all these.
On that same page, page 9, is it the 2025 Parks and Recreation Master Plan, or will it be the 2026?
That is a good question, and because they adopted the open space component last year, and now they're still doing the parks component.
Yeah.
So we could change it to like 25 to 26.
I mean, just
I don't even want to tell you what the date on this plan in my files is labeled. So I'll have to update that after. Okay, page 9.
Other comments on chapter 1? Move on to chapter 2.
Cool. Thanks, Sarah. Let's get my notes here.
I don't have anything until page 20, so if someone's got something sooner.
Let's see if I can. On page, oh, it's 20, sorry.
Fair enough.
You go first then.
On page 20, first paragraph, development cases is the term, and then I think throughout the rest of the text, the word is proposal. And I wonder if it would be helpful to just use proposal throughout, because that's what people are actually doing, right? They're proposing a development, just for ease of reading and just consistency. And then development cases is also written down in the first paragraph under preliminary plating.
Cool. We'll,
I mean, that might be a terminological difference that you want to set aside, but
no, I think you're finding that staff is clearly, it's an interchangeable word for us. So we'll change it to proposal. Because you're right, we should recognize them that they are proposals.
And mine isn't necessarily an edit or anything else, it's just, I caught that the comprehensive plan will incorporate a future housing action plan.
Yeah.
And so since it's going to incorporate the housing action plan, that will go through the same process as the comprehensive plan. We'll have to adopt it and the council will approve it.
Yeah, so anything that would be, so this thing was like a neighborhood plan or anything
Yeah.
that's kind of a component. Yeah, I'm talking with Lauren McKinney, where she's wrapping up the technical addendum to the housing needs and strategies assessment. And that has to provide the legal basis for the housing action plan. And so we're assuming we're gonna get consultant support later in the year. And our team will kind of help on public engagement and integration into the plan.
Okay.
But that's the goal. I think we're also kind of waiting because Jeffco's starting to take a little bit more of a leadership role
Mhm.
on housing, and so they're in the process of doing some formal policy work. Lauren's trying to get a sense of like where they're going before we do our local thing.
Nice.
We participated in the DRCOG housing process that they're doing right now, but ultimately did not find that they were providing a lot of value to the city. It was more focused on larger communities, and as happens with DRCOG efforts at times, we're kind of on the edge of their thinking, and we don't always get as much attention as we would give ourselves. So,
And just for everyone, the DRCOG is the Denver Council, Denver Regional Council of Governments.
sorry.
So, no, I just, not an actual doctor. And just
First doctor.
a note on the H&A. I plan to bring that, send it out to Planning Commission after kind of the comprehensive plan part, along with that addendum, and have Lauren also join to preface that. I just figured, rather than sending it, I know we've talked about it, just only one 100-page document to review by Planning Commission at a time.
Thank you.
But we're hitting all the milestones thus far that we have to under state rules right now for preparing all these things. So that's the most important part, I suppose, at the regulatory perspective.
Also on page 20, on the right-hand column, the third bullet point, the example of a proposed vacation seems pretty esoteric to me.
This is another one where we stole it from the current comp plan, because we do use it, but I think we can maybe revise the language. Because there are instances where it's like, if somebody were to ask, like, can we get rid of this alley, can we get rid of this road connection, we would want to make sure it's not impeding future projects. things like that.
I'm just not sure that vacation is I understand the use in this
Sure.
context, but I'm not sure, I'm not sure that it's necessarily clear for
Yeah.
a lot of people.
Yeah, understood, and I'll speak to this one specifically. So in the vacation of right-of-way criteria, under chapter 1850, alignment or, I can pull up the specific criteria, but it does talk about alignment with the comprehensive plan. And so I think when we looked at that, it's kind of a vague criteria. And what does that really mean? And I think we're using this opportunity to say, well, it doesn't, block off a future connection to a subdivision that the city was planning on, or some other piece there. Just since the criteria in the actual zoning code doesn't give us a lot of guidance. So we were trying to add just a little piece for when we do have to invoke that particular one.
You just feel like people who are gonna be reading this aren't gonna understand what vacation means.
Right.
Yeah.
We
So
gave
maybe
them
some
a
other
compliment.
example or
Yeah.
word or something.
Yeah, Carl, I mean, I think your explanation of some of the things you added, public right of way, just building it out a little might bridge the concept.
Okay.
People are thinking they're like jetting out to Hawaii or something. That's not gonna work for this new sidewalk.
Other comments anybody has for chapter 2?
I really appreciate the graphics on page 22. I think they're really helpful, and it's kind of a one-stop way to interpret, if I was thinking about a proposal, how it might do or not do one of these things. So kudos to the design team there.
We've been very happy with the graphic design that they did for this plan.
And I think staff is anticipating that this, takes it out of a binary choice and gives it a little bit more, a spectrum of competing values, and just, hopefully make that process a little bit clearer when that decision is made.
Chapter 3?
My comment is on page 31. It's supposed to talk about the Historic Preservation Program report and the core values and key WEP themes are all about the water supply and water demand.
That's weird, they didn't, sorry, they have it, sorry.
I'm
that's
sure
my
that they
bad.
do. It's just, I caught that, so.
When I was putting the report into, it was a tricky thing, because it's not really a plan, it's just a report, so there aren't
Yeah.
like adopted values
Mm.
per se, and
Yeah.
what Lauren Simmons is working on right now, I think is more the manifestation of that stuff. I know we wanted to at least capture that as the basis in here, and well past for kind of moves forward. Good. That's an embarrassing one, sorry about that.
And then, if anyone else has anything, page 33, just some of the dates of the plans are inconsistent.
Yeah, this is one where we asked them to update the graphic, and I'm like, no, you actually
Okay.
gotta update the graphic. Yeah. So I caught that myself.
Perfect.
On page 28, do we need to define capra, or has it been defined above?
Hmm. Good question.
I said as somebody who doesn't know what capra is. So.
Yeah. Please don't ask me what capra is. We'll define it. I think it's, I'm not sure.
And then the other comment I had for this chapter was, in each of these plans, or at least in most of them, in the last paragraph, the last sentence, or the second to last sentence, it says something like, proposed developments and users of the plan must, blah, blah, blah. I wonder if that should be like set, like bumped out and called out so that people who are drafting a proposal can know what they're going to be held accountable to.
To
do you-
propose developments and users
Yeah.
should consult the whatever plan for
Yeah.
specific guidance.
I mean, it seemed like that's consistent language for each of the
It
plans.
is, yeah.
And I wonder if that would be helpful.
Yeah, I think you're right.
We'll find a way to highlight it, whether it's highlighting or spacing.
And to follow up, the Commission for Accreditation of Park and Recreation Agencies.
Of course, yes.
As we all know.
On page 29, it's maybe the same problem you had pointed out. It's the sustainability strategic plan, but then
Oh, TMP.
yeah, the right two shaded boxes have TMP.
Sorry, one sec, which,
Page 29.
working too fast here.
Oh, yeah.
29. I think you're on
Oh,
the
sorry. Look through.
Yeah.
That's so weird. All right.
Another general typographical comment was just to go through to make sure there's either decide that there's going to be 2 spaces after a period or 1 space after a period.
Another thing you found that my colleagues have raked me for.
Yeah.
Yeah, just to be clear, I'm an Oxford comma guy, so.
I'm not, apparently. And I'm a 2 spaces guy.
Other comments on chapter 3?
on page 33, in the main paragraph at the top, where there's the parenthetical statement, policy not regulatory documents, should that parenthetical statement be actually after these plans versus the comprehensive plan? Because it's the plans that it's referring to are policy, not regulatory documents, right?
I mean, I would argue you probably can just take it out.
That's even better, right? Yeah.
I think this whole document is policy, not
Yeah,
regulatory,
yeah,
so
yeah.
I don't think we need to belabor the point there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ready to move on to chapter 4?
Let's do it.
A nice example of photos we can pull from drone footage that we shoot when we go out every once in a while.
Jen, did you have something?
Yeah, mine was further down, but I can certainly, why are you calling me out specifically? Do you know what I'm gonna say already?
No, I don't.
Oh, so I'm gonna.
But you've been a great lead for,
Oh, well, I'm gonna bring up what we discussed back on, November 5th? So it used to be goal H5, now it's goal H6. I think we had talked about modifying this to kind of have it be support context-sensitive construction of diverse housing types, because I don't know that we just wanna have a whole bunch of housing, at any cost all over the city. I think we need to make sure that it's the right type of construction in different areas of the city.
The notes I had were that staff needs further guidance on what that means,
Okay.
because I think context can be challenging, and our zone and our form-based code provides some of that integration with the existing neighborhood. So I think if there's something specific that we want to either encourage or avoid, we could use guidance from the planning commission.
I just think the goal as written is not something, I think we need to further refine it, personally. But I would love to hear what my other
Yeah.
commissioners have to
And
say,
it definitely,
suggestions.
the goal came about at the request of council, so I think that, there is a balancing act. I think they want to see more housing construction, but I think they would want to see that context as well, so I think that we can add that.
And I might just also offer from, when this might come into play from a rezoning criteria or a special use, but there are additional regulatory criteria that planning commission may consider when looking at that. So while the goal itself could be more broad, some of that additional criteria might help, with that context sensitivity. But also if, you would feel more comfortable with just I think from staff's perspective, we have that support through the regulatory criterion. We could show that or add a little bit more context in the planning commission adoption packet to say, here's the places where, you might be able to lean on that context sensitivity through existing criteria in the code, but also welcome a conversation from planning commission if they would like more, things added to this goal specifically.
Can you speak a little more about your concerns?
Sure. So it says, support construction of diverse housing types across all income levels and housing types. I could see a scenario where this goal kind of dominates. And I know there's other criteria we use to evaluate, but I could see a scenario where this goal essentially leads us down a path where we are, you know, and I feel like we already are in a lot of ways having these conversations of, you know, having a bunch of, you know, I think infill is good, but again, I think that it needs to be context sensitive. And you know, we have the form-based code for this reason, and I think that those are our, kind of our guardrails at this time. But I think that, you know, there could be a scenario where this goal would support the removal or expansion of, you know, development in form areas. I think that we just need to all be aware of you know, where this could take us without maybe having some sort of other consideration in place. You know, and maybe this is unfounded, and maybe we have a bunch of other things to protect us from, you know, a bunch of, I don't know, large duplexes all over the place. But you know, I would rather kind of talk about it a little bit more here, so we can lean back on it in the future.
Could we just simplify the wording of that goal and just say, support construction of diverse housing? Period. Is that,
We could,
What you're
the
trying to
income
accomplish.
levels was requested by Ready, so that's one thing that we put in, and just tell you that as background. And I think housing types was, again, I think that was really intended to recognize all the different form types that we have now, where it's not just multifamily, it's not just single family, it's the diversity of the form types that our code envisions and allows.
What if we replace support with thoughtfully consider proposals for the construction of diverse, I mean, is that sort of what you're getting at? Like it's putting some kind of like pause around just supporting?
Yeah, I mean, that would be better. Yeah, I think this is a very important goal, and we need to get it right.
Yeah, I don't have a smart edit to propose. I agree with the concern. I agree context could be an important word to plant in here, because I think it deserves to be more explicit. I just thought that was, support construction, it is a bit presumptive, like that if proposal comes in and leads with that there's an incumbency that everything else falls in line. So yeah, I didn't read it with that the first time. So I think it needs a scrub. I don't know if we're the ones to edit it, but yeah, that resonates with me on everything that's come up.
Do you have a suggestion for?
I don't have a smart.
But I think, you know, support is kind of a very strong word.
Yeah.
Is that what we want? Is there something else instead of like adding the context sensitive piece in there? I don't know. I mean, I think you're right. Like there's maybe having some other wording proposals that would be a better fit.
If I might offer another place, like Planning Commission could say, no, please change this goal. Another place might be adding just another bullet point under that, because I think in some of those are additional action pieces, and that might be a place where you could have, you know, when evaluating, you know, development proposals or something, consider context sensitivity and, you know, some of those considerations as well. So, you know, it doesn't modify the goal per se, but it does add a rounding bit for that consideration as another potential piece. But, you know, to offer that as a potential place for a modification. But
I think that's a reasonable suggestion, but I would want the line underneath to be a little bit stronger then and say ensure that context is considered or something like that. I would.
I think we just want, the bullet points underneath are actions that we take to achieve that goal. So I think if we're talking policy language, we want to put it in, and whether or not we can we can go back and see if there's a way we can tie in to some of the language that we've put here within the chapter. I don't know. I'm sure if support is, so kind of what I'm hearing is support and adding some amount or some language around context, and I guess leaning into having form-based outcomes perhaps where there's not form-based zoning. Is that the right way to put that, Carl? Like in our PEDs, basically.
I mean, I feel like, and I wouldn't even refer back to form-based zoning, because I would refer back to like neighborhood context. I think that's, because again, form-based zoning, I think that we're already starting to kind of explore what other things could look like in those areas, and we have to really understand what the current, neighborhood architecture looks like. And I think that when we're encouraging new housing or supporting construction of new housing in these areas, like, we also have to consider the houses that currently exist. That's kind of my point.
Is it architectural or is it larger? Because we could tie it back into the neighborhood plans. I just worry because context is a nebulous term. And I don't want staff and the commission, so somebody's like, well, of course I need the context of the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a single family home that everybody doesn't like the aesthetics of. But if we want to tie into more of how things are built, how the housing and just how the neighborhood envisions itself, and knowing that our neighborhood plans are slightly on the older side, but I still think we find a lot of value in them.
Okay.
That could be another alternative as well.
Another suggestion would be potentially, rather than maybe context sensitivity, with a consideration of context. Therefore, it doesn't, maybe weight that priority, but it does potentially expand that aperture, so we do look at context when making these decisions without necessarily weighting it towards, one outcome or another. But at least it's having that into the broader consideration. Would be another place. I just, I think in some of these places, I'll let Planning Commission continue their deliberation.
What if, like a word was added in that was sort of a qualifier, like support, informed construction, or thoughtful construction, or appropriate construction?
Mhm.
And then I would probably just get rid of across all income levels and housing types.
Sounds like that was asked for by Reddy, though.
Yeah.
Well, but it's already included in
Yeah.
goal H4.
Yeah. Sorry, Kevin.
No, I was gonna say this, just to say, I mean, rather than modifying construction, it's absent in H4. Support new workforce housing. Parallel construction on H6, is it better? Support diverse housing types. Just to solve the support, I mean, is it a question about support or construction? And now when I look at H4, I wonder if it's construction.
Oh, so H4 should be support construction?
No,
Oh.
I'm saying take it out of H6.
Oh, just support diverse housing types.
Yeah, I don't know, I'm thinking out loud, I'm trying to
I mean,
decide
that's how
out
I
loud.
envision
What's the
it.
difference between, is it support that's a problem or construction that's a problem? And maybe it's both, I don't know.
As this alternative phrase, what about encourage development?
I mean, it's, I don't know, yeah, I'm just thinking it out loud, I mean, we're searching for solutions, developments, I don't know, I mean,
So kind of what Carl and I are hearing right now is revising something to kind of qualify, and maybe that's not even the right word, that term support, but I think just supporting within the context of the neighborhood seems like not just tying it to architectural outcomes. although that is part of it. And then having some recognition of the kind of how H4 and H6 are combined. I think staff can go back and take a crack, unless there's a specific edit that folks want, we can take a crack at it. And I don't know if it'd be easy to send something
I
out
mean, if-
before.
Yeah, I mean, elicit whatever discussion we need, but if, I think coming back with the, staff would come back with a draft, I think would be better. Sorry, this is another photo that hopped out to me in the same context, is this, when I look at the photo in context with the goals, it
Yeah.
feels like that we're pitching a solution, that the image pitches a solution, and I think that's not accurate. So, I found the goals, I find the photos when they're nested, when they're nested in the graphic design with the goals even more problematic, and I can't remember how many there are, but I think we have
Yeah, this is the Cole. I think we tried, because a lot of our rental support, like for our supports for the other stuff, like this is.
No, I know,
So I think it's
I get it
trying to-
in one vein, but again, reading it as an applicant, I'm trying to figure out if this is, if my development ideas fit in Golden, it's this immediate, I think it's misplaced and.
Is there a particular type of photo you would want to?
I wouldn't use a photo in any of the goal pages as a starting point from a design standpoint. If you want to use it to move it into the front matter discussion of.
That's a good point.
Of other housing solutions and what's been going on, that could be used.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I think that any photo you use sort of, sway or leans the context. So.
Yeah, it's part of the visual storytelling. Yeah, it's associated with,
Yeah, we can do that.
Matt, I did like your idea of tying it back to the neighborhood plan potentially. So like, I think that should be on the table, one of the things that you're kind of thinking through, because I'm not super familiar with every single neighborhood plan.
Neither am I.
or very many of them at all, except for the one that I helped adopt. So yeah, I think that might be worth, as part of an evaluation of any new housing, to kind of call back to the neighborhood plan too.
For sure.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And I think with this, reading goal H4, I think the specific call out to workforce housing and affordable housing, like that is intentional to call out those AMIs. And I think, we'll definitely, I think calling out the neighborhood plans is probably the way to go with revising H6.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because it's a little cyclical because a lot of our neighborhood plans were like, we don't like the outcomes we're getting. So that was why we did the form-based code. But I think the reason why they didn't like the outcomes they were getting is pretty well captured in those plans. So.
Are the goals and the actions, we had this conversation a few meetings ago, are they shalls or shoulds?
They are, well, they're not, so none of them are shalls. They're things for really staff to do. So I guess they're shalls in that way, but they're not like a shall for a developer per se.
Okay.
And then a quick conversation about H5, because it's absent the bullets. I mean, I get the conversation. It's not an imperative. I guess it's still a goal, but secure a funding source, a city-based funding source. Of all those, that reads as a pretty big imperative. I expected to see more build out of that, but.
Yeah, I mean, that's one that council asked us to put in because they are, I think they're tackling that right now to figure out how they want to fund that local affordable housing trust fund.
I mean, maybe it is.
We could put something in of like support city, we
Yeah,
could
if
put
it's not,
something in of like, no, really do it.
Yeah, I think it's fine to put that in there if it's a top-down leadership role, I would put that bullet in here.
It was one of those weird ones where it kind of like blends between goal and action. It's like, it's so big, it has to be recognized, but at the same time, it speaks for itself. It's like, we should do this, and council is moving towards doing it.
It was really an active conversation parallel to the time
Of
the
this.
comprehensive plan was being talked about and
Yeah.
reviewed and so on, that separately, that was an active conversation.
And it may be a good example of a goal that we modify when we bring the housing action plan, because I assume we will have much more robust conversation about funding mechanisms in that plan, and then we could, either we know it by then, or it's we tweak it for like how we're gonna move forward on that.
And again, it deserves, it deserves a couple of bullets, just building out what you.
You'd almost move down the
Foundations for-
second bullet from H4 to H5. You talk about.
We could, yeah, but I think, specifically, I think the way workforce and affordable housing is, the financing is layered in a lot of projects. There was a request to kind of specifically call out how we have to call that out, but I agree that we could probably just duplicate it, or something along those lines.
Yeah.
I can see if McKinney has any additional,
Specific
perspectives that we can
actions,
put.
And I apologize on housing goal H6. The second bullet does talk about consistency with neighborhood plans. I would still ask that you kind of think about what that initial sentence says, if there's any way to kind of just clarify the goal.
The identified development regulations. The second bullet point under H6, you said? Or sorry,
Yeah.
I'm writing,
Yeah,
writing
actually,
and listening simultaneously.
yeah, maybe it is, yeah. That the construction that's supported is consistent with the neighborhood plans, but I mean, that's essentially the form code.
And we could pull that up into the goal language itself. Is that what you're looking to do?
Potentially, yeah, I mean, I would feel more comfortable with it that way.
Okay.
It's almost as if diverse housing and consistency or consideration of the context are almost equal
Yeah.
themes.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we don't want to support like just run away like any and every development. And so I think we can kind of clarify that. But we just want to avoid getting into a situation where somebody could use our own words against us. Like, yeah, we can maybe.
Yeah,
I
point
think
being-
neighborhood plans are specific enough to Carl staff leverage. We're just gonna make everybody read like 3,000 pages of planning documents before they ever submit a proposal to the city.
You better get to know Golden.
Exactly,
Before
I
you
mean,
build.
honestly, it's probably not the worst thing that ever happened.
We'll make them a podcast.
Did you have anything on housing?
Yes. Funny you should ask.
I would love to hear it.
Speaking of using our own words against us, I wanted to flag a concern I had on page 43, the kind of the intro to housing in Golden. As it's written right now, it kind of risks implying that certain populations are less desirable to the city and that we're trying to exclude them. And I know that that's not true about the city of Golden, but I think it reads that way, and it could come across as saying, like, especially the word intentional policies. I mean, that to me sounds very accusatory, that the city of Golden is intentionally trying to keep out other races.
So this is another instance where Reddy asked us to verbatim add this, and I don't think that was their intent. I think it was more to recognize the way the mortgage industry and real estate industry traditionally made it more difficult for residents of color to live in specific neighborhoods.
Which has nothing to do with the city of Golden.
I don't think that's 100% accurate. I think every city has had to deal with that. I think it's something that every city's dealt with at some point. I can certainly go back to Reddy and go back to their staff liaison and relay these concerns, and we can find a way to kind of word it, because I agree kind of as a look forward-looking statement, and that's kind of where we're at in this chapter. We don't want it to make it sound like this is a current problem that we are addressing, but I think the stats that they quote are accurate, and that, home ownership is more of a challenge for people of color. So I think I could work with them on the specific language.
Yeah, I mean, that last paragraph to me doesn't belong in the comprehensive plan.
Okay.
And I know that there's some stats being cited, but, you know, again, this is for the city of Golden, and I found that this whole page is talking about the state and the county stats and not necessarily city of Golden, so I would recommend that we try and stay focused on our city when we're talking about these things. And there may not be statistics for that, but
And I think to Matt's point, it's, you know, how do we add context for a future looking? But there are, you know, examples I came across, and I'll go double check and find it. But in the plating, and generally it was the 40s and 50s, of which we do have subdivisions coming in at that time, it was either written into their covenants, and I found a plat with a specific note that these houses shall only be sold to members of the Caucasian race.
yeah, that's from the 40s and 50s.
Not held anymore, but, you know, I think we see these in the planning, that they are echoes of the past. That these barriers of segregation, while they're not intentionally anymore, but they are, you know, continued forward in a number of cases. And so, you know, I think it's how to write this in a way that does, you know, also acknowledge that past, because it is in Golden.
Yeah, I just think we need to try and make sure that the tone aligns with our goals and not accuse the city of intentionally keeping people out. It just doesn't, I'm not feeling good about the city of Golden when I read that.
I don't have the same read on it. I mean, I read it more historically. I mean, it brings up a lot of questions, so I'm not, I think the bigger question is, does the contextualization fit? Because that there is, but I mean, that's systemic in this document. I mean, just to make the conversation bigger, if it's in or out, you know, and whether it belongs in this document, I think is a bigger question. Just do we contextualize each section or not? I mean, rather than, well, like I say, I mean, I appreciate Carl's. They are facts. Are they facts that influence the future? We should probably be reading. We should go. Your question makes me want to reread the whole document and be more systemic about that, because there's a lot of contextual. It's a question of how much do we contextualize, and I don't know. Maybe that's the conversation to have rather than about this particular one. It probably could be, you know, maybe building it out. If it is fact-based, that might help the concern, right? But then the question is, if it is factual, per Carl's point of view, is it relevant context? And again, I think that needs to be applied. I would suggest that we don't, you know, that needs to be systemic read, that we don't edit in and out things that in history we're comfortable with or not comfortable with. I think that's a bigger question.
I did a similar impression when I read the text. This section and then the section up above that relates to the original inhabitants of this land. Both comments I think are important contextually. It did feel a little bit like somebody said, hey, we need to add a thing. Let's add the thing. It felt a little bit shoehorned, and I'm not sure if it, because that's kind of what happened, right? You know.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think it's good stuff, and it's trying to figure out where it is. But I think we can find ways to contextualize it and keep it factual if that's where folks want to go. Because I agree, it's abrupt. I was trying to find a good spot for that language that they wanted to have added and balancing that, so we can reassess
I mean,
if we want to keep that language and where it goes.
another way to approach it would be, instead of trying to like weave that narrative throughout, is just to have like kind of a declaratory statement somehow. It talks about history.
Almost belongs like towards the top,
Yeah, yeah, like a,
the history of
just
Golden.
saying this is kind of what was, what is, our intentions. I wonder if that would be,
I like that
Stronger,
idea,
you
and
know.
just kind of have, because I think that it's not just housing, right? It's like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of things in this document that we're trying to change errors of our past, and I think someone said it like, we wanna look forward to the future, that's what this document is.
Right.
While
It's a plan.
also understanding, like, there was some bad things, there were a lot of bad things that happened in the past, like, we can acknowledge that and also say, like, what's in this document is looking to, rectify or like move past and, make it better, for everyone, or something, I don't know. Yeah, I think you're right. Maybe, I don't know how many places it is in the document.
I think there's only two real things in this vein that we were asked to add. So we can, what I'm hearing is we could move that and the indigenous community statement kind of into a historical paragraph discussion in chapter 1.
Yeah, and I think chapter 1 is having it up front, might be
Okay.
the place to.
Yep. If that's what we want to do, we can do.
Yeah, I think one of my comments last time was kind of along those lines of like, there's a lot of like framing things here and like a lot of statewide contextualization, so, how important is that? If you're, I don't know. Just a question.
page 44, sorry to go back a little bit, second full paragraph. It starts with the thriving communities and community development divisions.
Mhm.
I'm guessing that means that should read the city's thriving communities and community development division.
Yeah,
Is that right?
that's it, yeah.
Okay. Because then it refers to the division in the last sentence, on the second half of that page.
Oh, we could make it division staffs, yeah, or city staff, yeah.
Yeah. I know, painful to go backwards, but I just wanted to
That's fine.
catch that.
Other comments on chapter 4? Or comments on the topic of housing? Moving on to chapter 5. Is there anything that we, or anybody was looking to include, and particularly in regard to our relationship with the school of mines, that you don't see here
That we should take a much harder tack and challenge their assertion that they are exempt from the local
Yeah.
zoning.
Definitely, definitely, yeah.
Yes.
Do what they do. I
Um,
agree.
And I think that is the opposite of city management's perspective right now.
Elijah, you don't wanna,
I'm not gonna say it.
you don't wanna get in on that?
I mean, we just renewed our IGAs, but I mean, I think that's an evergreen comment that we get. And it would require force of Elijah going to court.
That's what I mean, job security.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I'll go with you for moral support.
So I think the way Rick puts it is we choose not to keep Elijah employed. We choose collaborative, if not perfect relationship with mines, so.
Even if we suggest that, it's probably not gonna.
You are welcome to suggest it. I think it may be stripped out by city council, so.
I don't know, we've got new council members.
I think that would be a pretty substantial change.
If you're looking for other places where there might be like an insertion of a ready recommendation on page 49, I know I'm going in the opposite direction. Page 49, center column, starting with investment in communities can cause displacement,
Yeah,
just to flag that.
okay.
Yeah, agree with that.
Okay.
Chapter 6,
I'd like to chat about the goals if that's okay with everyone.
Do it.
sure.
I really want this to, I want more economic development goals. Or maybe not even goals, but like expanding on ones we have. I think we talked about this also in October, November. But, you know, we have a visitor-based economy and there's, you know, you guys do a lot of marketing to market the city. You know, we just talked about how Coors is, you know, while it's not in the city limits, it's a huge player. Is there any way we can kind of associate some, you know, goals or, I don't know, what do we call those bullets underneath?
Implementation actions.
Action
I mean, we could
items?
do, so we could take like the work that Baxter and our new economic development manager do, where it's like they're partnering with the Chamber of Commerce and with Golden Civic Foundation on events, and we're hosting, I mean, we could even put something in here about events, although I'd probably get tomatoes thrown at me. We could also put in like just the work that they do, like we could recognize that.
Yeah,
in
continue
ways.
to, you know, attend events and represent the city and
Yeah.
blah, blah,
And
blah.
I think it's more of like creating the, because a lot of their work, you know, it's like creating the relationships for like when there's a business that comes out of mines or wants to come into
Sure.
Golden, they know that it's out there and they can kind of bring them in, so. We can definitely add some of that.
I think I went back to my notes from last time, so as well, but we had suggested that resource-intensive land uses be limited to like data centers, for example.
I added some language, and I think,
Is it somewhere in there?
not in the goals,
Okay.
it's in, I think it's on page 63 at the beginning, where we really talk about kind of our mission of economic development, but then also of, because really our overall economic vitality and development mission is we're not just like doors open, we'll take an Amazon warehouse, we'll
Mhm.
take an AI data center, we'll take anything that
Okay.
comes. We really want to we try to cultivate opportunities that are consistent with the city's values and like take advantage of our location and partnerships with, you know, research institutions, stuff like that. We could be more blunt about that. I also, because I mean, I have my own personal opinions about a lot of those larger types of resource intense uses. And I tried not to put in language, I was like, don't even talk to us Amazon, don't even talk to us AI data center, because I know in my own area of Denver, there is a data center in Globeville, which is very small compared to like, I think the perception folks have. But also putting in here that when it comes to annexation, when it comes to like bringing in a business, because we have businesses a lot of times be like, oh, we need all this water, and we're just like,
Can't help you.
we're pretty conservative, and that's what we try to reflect, where it's like, we've been very conservative about how we allocate our resources, whether it's your annexing, whether it's your locating a business, since we control at least our water. And I think we're finding the limits that like other communities have of what XL, like we've lost developments because XL drags its feet.
Yep.
And that's not unique to us. So I don't know. I tried to put it in there, but I also didn't want to just like go out and be like, don't
Yeah.
talk to us if you're this specific type of business, because there could be ways in the future that something like that could be a resource intense use that we would want to encourage. But I'm definitely open that I missed the mark on that. So if there's additional language, or if we want to put it in the goal versus if we want to find a different home for the concept, we can definitely do that.
I'm just thinking, how is staff going to use the comprehensive plan when they're evaluating an application? Are they gonna go into the intent of economic development and kind of
I think
parse
this
that
is
out?
more, this kind of came about largely because we wanted, and why, I think one of the original comments was this seems too manufacturing and like commercial industrial focused. And part of it is because it kind of was, because we didn't want to get into a situation where we were replacing those economic drivers for the city with only housing, and then not providing the kind of the amenities that would be expected for housing. So I think, and that's what that economic contribution analysis really showed, like our economy is incredibly diverse. It kind of punches above its weight for a community of our size. And so having those commercial areas, whether it's like Corporate Circle or up north, like having those smaller spaces, we wanted to maintain those. But I think when you get into like water planning and electric coordination with Excel, the zoning stuff, that's gonna fall more onto our regulatory documents and onto the our water planning, where we know pretty much how much we have, where we're gonna allocate it to, how we want to assume. We've talked, our deputy public works director came from Vail, and he's like, the way we used to do our water planning is they would box out, like, we know we want in this, we have a future area that we want like a degree of specific type of business. We're gonna box out future water demand in our planning for that. He's like, we could move in that way. We don't do that right now. But I think you would find, we're not like coming to here where somebody's like, well, I'm bringing a cool new business. And I think a good example recently would be like maker spaces. We really wanted one, but we lost it to Arvada just because we didn't have the space for it. And that was a pretty low, but we weren't really looking for like these goals. I think this is more, it could be more like how this group functions, because we don't have like an economic development plan per se. So kind of capturing the work that they do and how it integrates with land use and development, but from a regulatory standpoint, it's probably going to be different plans and different standards. If that's a rambling enough answer.
And I'll ramble along with Matt.
Thank you.
No, we'll ramble on. No, and this is a bit of the work that Planning Commission did back with Phase 3 in the overhaul of Chapter 1828, our use chapter. We did define data centers specifically, and then we limited those as special use permits in C2, and then limited in M1, permitted in M2. So those are our industrial zones. So, from that perspective, we would certainly look at resource intensity, and also I think the overall criteria that comes along with those, and I think from our perspective, were we to get one, we'll see where XL is with their capacity. I think there's just some practical factors that limit, these hypotheticals coming ever really to fruition in front of you. But I think from a regulatory perspective, we did add those provisions into the use chapter, and then were we to get a rezoning, I think I'm comfortable that, we have the tools to be able to say yes or no to something, depending on the context of it. So and, all those other goals that it comes up with, so.
Okay. Yeah, that makes me feel more comfortable.
Yeah.
Elizabeth, so it'd be worth adding a sentence, maybe in the beginning, to position it, economic development, just the way you described, everybody described here, that it's focused. So economic development isn't just jobs or employment size, right? But this is considering it that way, and then as are the recommendations. So where my head is at is just, there are other important economic development factors, right? Like visitorship and tourism. We're just choosing not to focus on those. And I say that, and I wouldn't be doing my job as a OED appointee from the state to not kind of make that point. The state has sent economic development grant money to support Foothills, to support miners, to, we've been direct recipients of it, and that's not acknowledged, and maybe it doesn't need to be, because we're defining it very specifically and very, I think it's it's a very small definition, right? And we can choose to do that. I'm not saying we rewrite the whole chapter to make it big, but I think it's worthy of I think it needs a sentence right up front to say these are the factors that matter for Golden, because we're taking a very small slice of economic development relative to planning. I'm also trying to unpack all my different hats here and focus in on it. And so I can get on board with what we've done, but I think, the sense of contextualizing is important, because it's not the only measurements that we pick.
And you can see my placeholder here, where I need to talk with Derek, with our new community marketing manager, and talk about that visitor-based economy. And it's been going slow just because he's getting his board set up, but I think that board's taking a kind of a wider perspective of, it's not just, we're just supporting like downtown marketing. It's no, we are supporting like a wider perspective. That's events, that's our businesses that are here, it's tourism, it's the visitation.
Right. And maybe they don't
So I
have
think-
direct planning manifestations. I mean, the way you've captured the other local organizations that are involved in that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out, does it live in a world where we need to address those things because they have planning impacts? It's not clear, right? Maybe it's okay to be focused
I
like that.
think,
Yeah.
I like actually where you're going, because I'm also thinking about small businesses and,
Sure.
I think we should, if we're not talking about goals specifically planning related, then at least acknowledging that, again, providing context. For providing context for our housing, we should provide context for, our economic development and kind of where we are with, the visitor-based economy and marketing and how,
I think just one other added point of context. So we've been drafting a lot of this without a economic development manager in place, and they are coming on board this next month. And so this is a place where
On the day before we're planning to adopt this.
yeah, well, the point being that as we go forward, like, this is a place where they might have, places where they want to add in more robust things, but at this time, do we want to put too many words in their mouth per se? I think that's an opportunity that we haven't had during this drafting process that we will have coming forward this next year as well. So just a piece there.
So.
An opportunity to potentially revisit and amend the plan, if they come up with,
So what I take
Did the
out.
timelines make it
So what I
possible?
take evidence, we'll move that community marketing and visitor-based economy discussion that I need to build out with Derek, and I'm meeting with him early next week. We'll build that out, we'll put that kind of in this front end section, and we'll talk a little bit more about the organizations and just the partnerships that are part of that, same as the partnership here.
So my question was simply timing. There is enough time to get him.
I'll work with Derek and Rick and Baxter to get something pulled together, because they've been largely the ones helping me write this chapter to date.
we can improve it.
But I would see, but to Carl's point, I think you'll see the economic development program is gonna probably expand and change a little bit once we have this new leader in, so. Here you go. This is the hard economic development work in this photo. It's challenging to find photos, even from the chamber. The chamber didn't have a lot of good photos that could share. Seems like we're moving on to chapter 7.
I think so.
It's my second favorite chapter. Kevin, you know.
Yeah, I did, you know, I went down in the weeds on this. I saw a couple of goals added, I appreciated the work. I didn't go through the exercise of, distilling all that and, giving you a concrete goal. So I guess I need to lean on everybody else to kind of reflect on my down in the weeds versus what are good higher level.
And I think Lauren tried to strike a good balance of what, I think she heard, obviously, we heard and we processed everything we heard from the last conversation. Like, she's looking at what can kind of live in the comprehensive plan, and that's, she's doing a lot of this work simultaneously, what could potentially be pulled into that pass forward effort from a more regulatory standpoint as well. So I think that's the balance that she tried to strike. And again, did we strike that balance? Did we not?
Just, bold swaths, and I'll let others pick up. I did the concept, metrics came up as something everybody liked here in part of it. I don't know if I found that explicitly, and again, this is a section, kind of like what Jen noticed in economic development. This has very little build out, and again, that's a question more than it doesn't need it, but it doesn't have as many bullets as some of our other sections.
So when you say metrics, you're talking like implementation actions under goals, or?
I just remember from our conversation, I had it was part of the, that's an important concept to bake into here, because that's, how we measure impact or success or failure, or we need to do better.
I think to Matt's point also, I think the balance that, Lauren was trying to strike, given that we have parallel efforts going, that we didn't want one to get over its skis ahead of a lot of the engagement and, public feedback that we're expecting on the other one. So I think that's just another, component of that. But to Matt's point, was that balance struck?
I can definitely get more context. It was very helpful to have Lauren here at our last discussion, since she's the expert. But I can kind of go back to her, and we can get some more context on kind of where she's thinking some of this stuff would live and pass forward, if there's metrics, or if we need to build some of these back in the comp plan. We can sort that out.
Yeah, I think these are all great goals, and I think they're all very important. So I don't, if there's any action items that we can associate with them, I would really encourage that. For goal number 1 in particular, I think I would like to, have a bullet underneath, maybe like consider incorporating, architectural styles from historic overlays into the farm zone overlays or something like that. I think we had talked about that. In one of our many conversations, having a special kind of overlay district or something like that for the historic areas. But
that's a good filter. I think that, it makes me also want to make sure and have everybody, or Matt and staff in particular, read these for the same scrutiny we were paying to economic development. And do they have specific planning manifestations?
Yeah.
You just identified ones. Others are more broad, right? They're just context about historic preservation, education. That's probably front matter stuff. Yes, we're going to rely on is that a planning specific endeavor, or are we leaning on parallel boards to, some of the other citations in there? What really are the planning? Distill it better to where the overlap is between us and planning, like
Yeah.
style and form, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, similarly on goal number 6, I mean, I really like that. Like, how do we get there? Like, what are some kind of action items and tools? How do we focus on the rehabilitation of historic structures? How do we keep people in their homes and help them, keep the existing housing stock and scale? Like, I think that's incredibly important. I think preservation is something that past council and certainly current council really values. So I don't know if there's any kind of
Yeah, we'll go
action.
back, because I would say we want any action to perfectly align, given that we want to perfectly align with what she's doing right now. But I think we can definitely put stuff in, because I would imagine there's implementation actions that we could attach to all of these goals. So.
Other comments on site? Moving to chapter 8.
This is a chapter, obviously, that is very overtly addressing state requirements. And we tried to add, under state statute, and basically all those bullet points on page 74 are like, yeah, this is what we're doing as required. We got some feedback on this one where people were like, you're encouraging like greenfield redevelopment. And I'm like, well, we're legally required to talk about stuff within the 3-mile boundary. So we could clarify that for sure, because it was obviously not the intent. I think the language itself was pretty skeptical at most of the annexation, and it really ties in with the annexation report that council adopted. Actually, does this board adopt that?
We approve it at least, or.
Yeah,
We
so
generally review it.
we stole, yeah, so like a lot of that stuff we stole in, and then continued our theme of we're very conservative when it comes to annexation. We're not gonna take you unless there's like a real good reason, and that reason is usually fiscal, so, or interesting use, so. So I think the language to me at least read more clear-eyed than, yes, we're trying to just have a bunch of greenfield annexation-driven growth.
And to clarify that council does adopt or, approve
Same
the
thing.
report. This last year, there weren't really any changes, so we have to send it to council annually. We did that without planning commission input because the report basically just changed the year, but not any substance. Sorry, we skipped you as a chat box.
And again, it's worth pointing out, there's a lot of elements in this chapter also. The city is simultaneously doing a water efficiency plan. And this plan is, all the water stuff has been signed off by Public Works. And again, I didn't know we talked about it last time, but there is a line that our water attorneys have told us for how much we discuss publicly to avoid having problems from a water rights perspective. So the state legislation does give some leeway to that, and we've leaned into that leeway to really follow our attorney's guidance on the water stuff. So I'm not trying to be coy. If you have any specific water questions, we can answer. But generally, I think you find, there's a couple of chapter or discussion in here, but I mean, the city's been pretty heavily curtailing its outdoor water use through efficiency measures for a number of decades now, and indoor water use has been kind of going down by virtue of our more diversified, more multifamily housing. That's been kind of our predominant construction style for a number of years. So there's usually lower indoor water use associated with multifamily or multi-household buildings. I need a plug-in. Thanks, man. You can always tell when your Dell laptop starts to get old, because this thing was at 100% charge an hour and a half ago. It's already ready to bite it.
Yeah,
Cool.
that's the only problem with sitting over here is we don't have plugs.
Thank you. Yep. Thanks, Elijah. I appreciate it.
Otherwise, you
My
gotta get
legs.
cozy.
I know, right? It's pretty good. Appreciate it. Get a habit now, pretty nice.
Are there other comments, in relationship to the chapter eight?
From the public, or?
No, from
Oh,
us.
sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I just want to confirm there's no comments on chapter 8. Okay.
Hearing none.
I'll take it. For how much effort we put into meeting the state's requirements.
10 out of 10.
Yeah, there you go. All right.
And then chapter 9 is really a compilation.
It's compilation and new stuff, yeah.
I mean, just bold struck, it seemed like this one was not quite ready for prime time. I mean, aren't there a bunch of question marks somewhere in page 93? Historic preservation still has 4 goals. I mean, this is just housekeeping, right? I mean, there's.
Yeah, they should have done all this stuff, and I've given it all to them, so this is another embarrassment for me of they did not seem to incorporate everything. But we flagged all this previously, so they cleared just into it.
I mean, the importance of it is to map it to value things, right?
Yeah, I mean, really where you're seeing the new goals will be the transportation, land use, community, neighborhood, and and parks and open space integration, and then communities and neighborhoods. Those are goals that are not elsewhere in the plan, but everything else should 100% just align with what we've already discussed in the chapters.
Right, I mean, I guess yeah, so I agree. The problem or question was with things like question marks, is if there was a goal a goal that didn't distill up to, well, it's missing from some of the other ones, like on page 92, goal H5. But that would be the problem, right? If for some reason we didn't. Do you need help from us?
No, that should be,
Or if it's
our
not, is it
designer
just-
did not
just-
do that.
Just housekeeping, yeah.
Yeah, that's a housekeeping thing.
And then from a design perspective, in this chapter, are the little target icons and the boxes with checks for the actions, are they going to be replicated through the other chapters as well, or is that just something that's consistent for this?
No, we should probably get rid of the target, and I guess it was helpful to have the implementation action. I mean, we could get rid of the target because it says goal.
Yeah.
But I think we could add something. I appreciate that they wanted to make it clear, and I agree, whether or not it's like a checkbox, it's like not done.
Right, that's what I was wondering
So-
about, right. Like, wow, these are all done?
Yeah, mission accomplished.
Should be a blank box.
I'm going on vacation. So, but yeah, I think we can change the graphic design for the implementation action. But I think it is just kind of, since there wasn't a lot of discussion, obviously, we just kind of dived into like, you know, we could add something on page 89 that'd be like, you know, underneath each goal are implementation actions. I think we could clarify that. So.
Yeah, and I think just looking at this, and you know, one of the values of this chapter is that you have all those goals in one place rather than flipping from chapter to chapter. And I wonder, you know, revisiting a little bit the question about the housing goal number 6, if the goal land use number 10, you know, with those two compared next to each other, if there's, you know, if that helps there, you know, or you know, if we can maybe circle that up a little bit on, you know, housing goal 6.
Yeah.
With that one, just to, since they're now almost on the same page.
Yeah. I think we also want to get something where it's like if a development proposal does come in, they just want to have like a short form.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's valuable.
Since we don't have the zoning code now requirement of like, you have to show how you comply with the comprehensive plans, we're just, I think it's almost like a way to make it easier for folks to see all the goals in one spot.
Just from a process standpoint, has council looked at this and provided feedback yet? Because I guess I envision a scenario, especially with new council, that they're gonna read, after we adopt this, they're gonna read this and then have some changes. It might be worth getting their initial thoughts in a study session first, maybe you have already.
We did a study session with the old council. I think council, I mean, well, I guess I don't know legally how that works if we get stuck in a loop with changes.
I know in the past, like the most recent, the 2017 I think it was 2017, council made amendments to it, kind of not on the fly necessarily, but they were making amendments to that comp plan during the public hearing. And depending how this process plays out, it might look similar to that, it might look a little bit different. It just kind of depends on when different things are finished.
Okay.
But that's within their right to do.
Yes.
So it doesn't come back.
So
Maybe that's the
We'll
conversation we have.
we'll cross that bridge if it happens.
Yeah.
I mean, we're hoping that, especially with the continuity of Councilmember Krasinski moving from Planning Commission, that, you know, we'll have that continuity that, you know, we have a clean adoption.
Yeah, and Rick's already met with new counselors and kind
Okay.
of gotten them up to speed on our department and what we're doing and stuff like that.
So-
I know Sandra's been at meetings, in nursing care, though.
So just to rephrase the possibilities, there could be another study session with new council of
I
parallel.
don't think we're anticipating doing
Parallel,
that.
but you're not envisioning that, okay.
At this time, we have not heard from any particular member that they have a level of discomfort, given the conversations, that they would ask for a pause in this process. I think they're all apprised of where we're at and, you know, where we're going.
And they trust planning commission.
And they trust me.
I think generally, yeah.
Fair enough. We're doing all the heavy lifting.
Given that chapters 9 is maybe supposed to be that section of the plan where applicants might just flip to make sure they're
Yeah.
dotting all their i's, do we need to restate the value themes somewhere at the top here, or am I missing that it's there?
Well, we definitely, the first sentence is saying it includes the goals rooted in public feedback and foundational values. I think it says, we refer to chapter 1 for an overview of Golden Vision
Yeah.
2030.
Okay.
No
Okay.
space.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Given that we make, that there are references to those, I think that question about whether the values might be restated here, just for easy reference.
And we do, for each goal, we connected to relevant value themes.
Right, oh, well, that's what I'm
Yeah.
referring to, that, so we've said value themes, ABC,
Yeah.
whatever. It seems like it begs to have those repeated.
Yeah, I agree
So that
with
they're
you. I
easy
mean, on
to
page
refer
like
to.
8, right?
Yeah.
You know,
Restate it.
I mean,
We
it's a quarter column to add, it's worth doing.
We could easily just replace the graphic on page 89 with
Yeah.
Yeah.
Golden Vision.
That's great.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Super minor, I had a reaction to it's not an emoji, but the symbol for historic preservation was the only one that brought me pause.
I mean the org part?
Yeah, the org card, I did it.
Yeah, it was basically
It just-
the org card.
I was spinning on it for a bit, and it's not, I just wanted to, did anybody else spit on it? It's not.
We can take a look at that icon.
Well, I think
I don't have another.
I don't think it
proposal.
exists.
That's right.
Interesting.
Oh, it includes, yeah, okay, so we can change that one.
Huh.
I like it.
I mean, I don't dislike it, but I think
Right.
it's just.
It is basically more cardboard, yeah.
There's already 2 houses, so I don't know what you would put in there.
Yeah.
No, I don't either, I don't have enough, like I said, it just.
How about a pickaxe?
And we'll evaluate it. We may not recommend a change after finding nothing better.
But we'll put a
Looks great.
lean-to with an old farmhouse. Page 93, okay.
Just for consistency's sake, page 89, last sentence, last line, chapter 3, chapter should be capitalized.
It should
I'm
be.
I'm sure that's stuff that you're gonna catch, but just because it's right there.
That's the thing our designer's gonna catch,
You're right. yeah.
making them proofread.
Uh-huh.
It's the weirdest thing with proofreading, no matter how many eyes you have on the thing, like,
Oh, yeah.
chances are, you know.
This is the proofread, we did a proofread and it was embarrassing. This is the partially proofread version.
Could we then move back then to talk about kind of process from this point to the point? of-
Sure.
The proposal is that we would do a public hearing as early as the 18th.
Correct.
We talked about a second day, a week later date.
And I know if we wanted to change this, I know Commissioner Rogers wouldn't be there. I mean, I think, if we can always change, we wanna make sure planning commission's comfortable. I think council's wanting to see, like, their strategic plan's Q1 right now, so we still have play within that. So, if we push a couple of weeks, it's not a big deal, but I think we've advertised, just because the lead time on the Informer is so early, we've advertised the 18th, obviously we can advertise another date. But to your point, we would have to hold a public hearing, we've requested our adjacent jurisdiction, stuff. City attorney has advised us that we need to advertise the public hearing and the golden transcript. State statute specifically calls out a newspaper, which I found hilarious. I was talking to somebody in Arizona today to place this ad. So I think those are the kind of the statutory requirements for adopting this. But I think if we need to shuffle it around, we are getting kind of tight with our council date following up, assuming that there were no further changes, amendments that you had at hearing. But typically we'd want about 2 weeks, because we will push on social media and weekly update and stuff of like, this is your last opportunity, provide feedback to the public. So, but if we need to shuffle dates here and there.
So
That's
what,
not a big
I
deal.
guess the question for the commission is, what do we feel we need in order to be ready, to feel prepared to do a public hearing? My thought is that the study sessions and so on have been the place for discussion of substantive issues or changes or recommendations for changes and that sort of thing. That the public hearing doesn't seem to be the appropriate time for us to be talking about a significant change to what's presented. But I want us to be confident that we feel this is the plan that should go forward by the time we get to the public hearing. And I don't, one suggestion or thought that I had is that I think it would be helpful, it'd be helpful to me, and hopefully to other people, if we could have maybe a follow-up memo from the two of you that just outlines kind of the major topics that we've gone through tonight, so that we're able to kind of focus in on that, be thinking about it, and then coming back up with, your suggested changes or revisions and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I've got notes, and I think beyond just like the smaller, directed changes, like it seems like beyond the like change this to that, obviously we're gonna implement those, but like I guess the larger conversations, we can talk about how we incorporated that.
I mean,
So you want that
is that a
by-
workable, kind of a piece of process anyway for the commission?
I think so. I mean, it feels like the only item we may need to chew through is the H4 through the housing goals that we won't have. Well, we may have to do that during the hearing if discuss and edit as part of our process if we don't have time to do another study session.
I do feel like 2 weeks is very quick, especially if we haven't received comments yet from adjacent jurisdictions, and in case there's changes, like, having an actual complete final, this is it document in 2 weeks, whether or not I'm here, I mean, it just feels like a very, very fast turnaround time, especially with all these like nitpicky things that we caught tonight. Can the editor really, turn that around that quickly, I don't know, I would rather give you more time than less.
It's actually less than a week. Yeah, I mean, I could make it work, quite frankly.
And
Slate's basically ready to go on this from a design perspective. So if we want to push it a week, it makes my life easier.
So I think that just from the logistics side, like staff, if we couldn't meet that deadline, then we would be making that call to push this to your first meeting of March, just from that logistics. But if we could get it done, that would be just planning commission. If you feel comfortable, like if we can get it done, would you be willing to
Well,
consider
I
it on the
think
18th?
from just a public notice, because we're not doing like a separate public engagement process, we're treating this as this is the public hearing, like this is where you can kind of come and give your last input, and having because we've got stuff scheduled right now with communications.
Mhm.
So I would say if we just want to push, then let's just make that decision to push tonight. Would be the most helpful for staff.
It's a procedural question. I'm not trying to make it more complicated, but if it was part of the agenda, we will walk through certain amounts, whether or not, could it be continued with that? How does continuation work with respect to notification?
You can continue hearing, right?
Yeah, just need a published notification for the continued hearing, of course.
So
A new
there's
notice.
timing that.
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
Got
yes.
it.
But I think that would be electronic notice through our standard channels. I don't think that would be a rehearing of the
I think
newspapers.
it's a notice of that you're at this hearing and it has been continued to the next meeting. Is usually how I've seen it.
Yeah. But yeah,
So-
the planning commission could always open the hearing and then continue it.
Yeah, take public comments that night and see if there's any substantive feedback that needs to be
Yeah.
addressed.
To do that on the 18th, and then to do it on.
I mean-
Potentially, yeah, that's certainly an idea, and I trust you all to, we had a really good conversation tonight, so, you know where I'm at.
Would you want so we could probably by the end of the week or Monday, get that summary of outstanding things that we're gonna address them.
Mhm. Is that, if that's workable, then that would help us in terms of being able to.
I think it's probably workable on the office on Friday, but.
Who's gonna be here on the 18th? I'm not.
Oh, I'm not either.
Yeah. But everyone else is?
I think I'll be here.
Yeah, I'm intending to be. I'm headed out to take care of some family issues out of town, so I'm intending to be, but there's some unknowns. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd really like for nearly all of us to be present if possible.
Yeah. That's kind of why I asked. I wanted
Yeah.
to be sure that we felt like we had the collective hive mind present for this
So-
conversation.
We know at this point that 2 of us will not be here,
Right. Potentially 3.
and potentially just.
Yeah. And it might even be more graceful just to say we wouldn't
For,
have three.
well,
You know
yeah,
what I
for,
mean?
for planning purposes, I
Yeah.
just, yeah, I'm leaving tomorrow, and I don't have a determinate return, but I'm hoping. I need to be back here for lots of things, so, yeah. I'm motivated to get back, but I don't know if.
Well, we'll
it's
hope
part of
that
the
you're
18th.
back, but you're right, maybe that's not how we ought to plan for it.
Will we have an, like a revised copy, next?
That's the intent, to get it turned around as part of your packet that would go out on the 11th. But if we just want to view it, I mean, we could continue with this, as we're calling this the January draft. We could continue with that for the sake of the public hearing and then have that extra time to incorporate public feedback, any other discussion, and then bring forward the final version at a second public hearing at your first March meeting. And then that would probably give us time to, it'd probably be early April for council, but that's fine.
I like that approach personally,
Mhm.
because that
Plan
gives
on
you
to.
guys flexibility, it kind of gives us the flexibility, it gives the public a valid opportunity to know that if they provide feedback at that meeting, that there's a chance it could get incorporated.
Yeah.
So open it up, plan for a continuation to the 4th, and then,
Okay.
Yep.
All right, I'll tweak our communication language, so that will be 4th.
Yes,
Is that your first name?
yeah, that's the.
And then we'll probably be targeting the April 7th council. Because their lead time is so long.
and to clarify, it was open up the public hearing on the 18th of this month, and then continue to the 4th for potentially your final determination.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah, and the discussion about any new items can happen on the 18th. There'll be new content to digest, and it's.
And then Ross, does that mean that you still want that summary of things we discussed by week's end, or?
I think by Monday, yeah, it would be, because, yeah, we would have, even if we move forward, I guess. I have too many versions of this in my mind. Yeah, I think I could probably, I'd still do that same time frame because we would want to move forward with incorporating all this just to get it off of our design plate.
So what I was, just to be clear, what I was suggesting is not a changes incorporated in the full document,
Yes,
but a shorter 2 or 3 page thing that said, you know,
How we're going
these
to.
are the major topics that we're working on and
Yep.
so on. Okay.
and this is kind of where we're going, this is how we're going to incorporate these changes. Yeah.
And I think we, obviously, goal H6 is the big one that I think everyone will want to make sure that we have, thriving communities and, their input on any changes to that one as well. And we'll have kind of any change and then an explanation, I think is, specific to that one. A lot of the other ones were more technical, but I think that's,
Is that helpful, I mean, as part of the process, helpful for folks to have that chance to look at it before we open it up on the 18th?
Yes.
We're not run and follow anything, Elijah. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
We want to talk briefly about the.
Did you say that was fun?
Just. Before you put your jacket on.
sorry,
Yeah.
Commissioner Frazier reminded me, so I did send out the revised work plan. That was reformatted into the council template. I did add a goal number 7 with, as time allows, to update on any state legislation that might come forward that impacts land use or zoning regulations. So, you know, I feel like I incorporated those pieces that Planning Commission had mentioned. I will also note, like, the original memo had more of a narrative format. Council likes bullet points and brevity. So, but if there's any changes, by all means, I wasn't planning to bring it back for another study session. I was just going to say, please email, you know, Commissioner Frazier and myself, you know, with any questions, and, you know, we feel confident that we can make those and incorporate them into the draft that goes up to council. So just as a follow-up to the email that you got earlier this week.
Thank you.
If there are gonna be only, if there are 4 or 5 of us here on the 18th, do we wanna continue operating as we are and do an election on the 4th?
So that will open up a public hearing. We will need an election to elect a chair and a vice chair, I believe. But I can review our bylaws of whether or not we could do maybe just a temporary election and then a re-election with more members.
Yeah, I mean, just for other information purposes, another board in another city, the bylaws did indicate that it had to be done at the first meeting annually, but knowledge that appointments could happen, we moved it to a date certain in the future. I don't know if our particular bylaws allow that, but that, you know, to the extent that, just to add to the possible knowledge out there, that might be.
It just, we haven't had any regular business meetings since the beginning of the year, so that's
Right.
where our first available would be the public hearing. So, but we could certainly open up, so if you would like to nominate yourself, by all means, let us know.
Anything else that people would like to discuss or need to discuss tonight?
Not this evening. And not city business related.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Thanks, everybody. Good discussion.